Now let's make our spiral bolt smarter. So for this old program, after you start the spiral bolt, it's going to run forever and it won't stop. So now let's add more controls to it. So it's going to just run for a little bit and then it's going to stop after a certain period of time. So let's try it. So these functions are in the tag of controls. And what I want to do is I will add a delay to it, to here. So I will just run this program for 1 second. So after the speed are being set up as 50 and it will stay here for 1 second. So which means the robot will keep going for 1 second. And then I want to exit the program. So nothing would happen anymore because it's not going to execute any of this program anymore. So it's going to just quit from here. So nothing will happen. So the robot will stop at that location. Let's take a look how that works. All right, so it does stop. So this is one of the strategies you can add to a program. You can add delays. You can force the program to quit. In the next experiment, we are going to add more functions to the program to make our spiral bolt even smarter. So let's delete these two functions first. Just drag and drop to the trash can at the bottom. And in this experiment, we're going to add a loop. So which means after the program entered into this loop, it's going to stay into the loop and just execute all the code inside the loop back and forth all the time. And you can see that this function is called loop forever, which means it's a dead loop. There's no chance anything can get out from the loop. So it's going to keep running all the code inside the loop. And what we are going to do is we are going to set up an initial value to the variable. Let's do 1. And in the loop, for every single loop it runs, I'm going to add a new value to this initial variable, initial value, and keep changing that value or adding some numbers to the value. And I'm going to use that number as the final speed for the robot. Let's take a look what I'm going to do. So after I have the initial value set up, and it's going to execute the next line, which is the loop, and it's going to get into the loop, and we are every time we get into the loop, we are going to set up the variable to a new value. We are going to update the variable to what? To something add to the original value, right? So you want to go to operators and you want to use something add to something, right? So drag and drop over there and go to variables again and pick up variable 1. Sorry, so you want to put this one here. Why cannot do that? Okay, that works. And every time I get in the loop, I'm going to add another number to it. So, and I want to update the speed with a new variable. So I need a variable name here because it just got updated over here. So now, after the first time it enters the loop, variable underscore 1 will not be 1 anymore. Instead, it's going to be 2 because the program is being executed from the top to the bottom. And you can see that after I click start, it's going to start running here, and variable underscore 1 will hold number 1 inside. After that, it's going to enter the loop forever function. It's going to execute here really quickly. So you can keep in mind, computer can run all these programs really fast. So it's going to run something like this, up and down, right? Back and forth. And every time it runs this line, it's going to update whatever has been stored in this variable to something which is one more in there. So it's going to add one to the old value in this variable. And then I'm using this variable as a speed, which means the speed will be updated all the time. And I'm using this number here. So you can imagine that if I use a larger number, so every time it's going to add a larger number to this variable. So which means to the robot, it's going to accelerate faster. So you can consider this as a step size. Every time if you just add one to it, it will increase the speed a little bit. But if you add a larger number to it, it's going to run faster and in a shorter period of time. So in another term is you are increasing the acceleration rate of the robot. But now let's try this one as a step size and one as an initial value and see how that works. So now I'm going to move this back a little bit and be ready to stop it because it's going to keep adding values and getting faster and faster before it hits the wall or fall off the table. You want to stop it. So let's get started. All right. And I just need the spiral bolt comes back. So what I'm going to do is I will change it to a negative value, and I'm going to add a negative value to it for the as a step size. Now it's your turn. Try to change the initial value and the step size. See if the acceleration rate is going up and see how it's going to affect the speed of the spiral bolt.